Johnson, Milwaukee Bucks analyst. Man alive, the hips are a little sore.
Yeah, sore just watching that.
Pull that thing up.
Yes, sir.
Let's start. The Bucks just retired your jersey. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Big honor. Yes,
you were the handsome. When I remember when I was a kid, you were the handsome UCLA guy. You symbolized UCLA basketball. You were cool. You were handsome. You were good, and you always beat my teams. So then you go to the NBA and you play and you have a nice career. Now you're doing television work. Milwaukee's a fascinating team.
Okay. Watch yourself now.
Now, here's why they're fascinating.
Watch yourself, Colin.
Now, there's two things. There's one thing which leads me to believe they're not going to get to the finals, which is history, which is generally in the NBA, it's baby steps.
Okay.
Is that you go to the playoffs and you get bounced. Then you go and you win a playoff series or two. And then all of a sudden, pop. All your players, Chris Middleton, Giannis, they all develop this metal and this body armor. And it's like, okay, let's go. So that tells me they're not going to win the championship. There's the other thing, though, that is unique. They've got the most double-digit wins, meaning they're blowing people out. And if you go look at the history of the NBA, the other 5 teams that beat this many teams badly all won the championship.
Right.
So which team are they? The one that you're a little worried about their lack of playoff resume, or the one that's beating the you-know-what out of people? What are they somewhere in between, Marcus? What are they?
Well, and your point about double-figure wins, I think we have 45, which is 7th most in NBA history, and every one of those other 7 teams went on to win an NBA championship.
It's a real number.
What it speaks to me, Colin, and look, I don't think that that's going to automatically transfer to championship medal and success necessarily, but it does speak to a team that has the unique ability to impose their will on opponents. And that's what the playoffs are all about. That's where this team fell short last year in Game 7 in Boston.
Right.
Against a Celtic team that was depleted. No Hayward, no Kyrie Irving, obviously. But still, we'll have home court advantage. I think one game to clinch that all throughout the playoffs. It falls somewhere in between, but more leaning toward, I think, success. Now, I'm with you. To me, Eastern Conference success finals, Eastern Conference finals, getting into the NBA finals would be just a tremendous step for this team at this stage of their development.
So stage is the interesting word.
Yeah.
Because I tend to think championship teams, there was the Steph's a new guy, and the Warriors were interesting.
Right.
Golden State was a little like Milwaukee. They popped a year faster than historically you're supposed to. Remember, one year they lost to the Clippers after the second round. Next year, they were the best.
Sure.
So Golden State, like Milwaukee, popped before we thought they were great.
Right.
So here's my question. We know Giannis is going to get his. Is Chris Middleton ready in a game 6 or 7 on the road? A game 6 on the road.
Yeah.
5 on the road. Is Chris Middleton ready to drop a 27-point game?
Well, he did that last year against Boston. He was a guy that averaged, I think, 27 a game in that first playoff series against the Boston Celtics last year. Now, he's dealing with a minor kind of groin tenderness that has caused him to sit out a couple of games. I don't think it's anything that is going to cause him to miss any games come playoff time. But recently, he's had a couple of 30-point games, had a 39-point game in 33 minutes the other night. I mean, the coaching staff, Mike Budenholzer, his staff, Colin, they've done a great job of minute management with these guys. Chris Middleton, Giannis last year, they were 2 and 7 in minutes played. This year, I mean, they're not anywhere close to that. I think they just barely cracked the top 40.
By the way, that's a thing.
Yeah.
By the way.
That's a major thing.
It's a major thing in the NBA, which is get over this need to impress people in the regular season. Rest your players. So Milwaukee's doing a much better job of resting dudes.
And they've rested their players and still have the best record in the league. We're 58-20 right now, but with guys having played reduced minutes. Last year, I think we were the 5th ranked team in terms of starters and minutes played. This year, we're 16th. And you got the Rockets, you got the Warriors, you got the Thunder, you got a bunch of teams, the Raptors, that have all played their starters a lot more minutes than we have. So this coaching staff has done a remarkable job of kind of the duality of purpose in terms of success, resting players, but still maintaining a high level of excellence in terms of winning basketball games. So you got to give the coaching staff a lot of credit for that, too.
Shaq said Giannis is better than me. I don't think he is yet. But when you watch Giannis, there's things we all see. His length is absurd. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, he may be the longest player in league history. He's a nice kid. What's something, if I don't watch him every night, you do as a Bucks TV analyst? What separates him? What surprises you?
how hard he works and his will to win. And you hear that often. So a couple of stories. Last year we played against, I think it was the Blazers. He struggled from the free throw line. I think we still won the game. So I'm walking to my car. It's a Milwaukee night. It's about -2 outside, probably colder than that with the wind chill. And I see this tall frame, this skinny brother with an undershirt on and shorts in that cold weather, weaving his way in and out of the crowd, headed toward the practice facility. And my first thought is like, who is that fool? Then I look closer, like, that's Giannis. And Giannis was going to work on his free throws at the practice facility because he struggled so much. The other thing is New Year's Day this year, I told Giannis, I reminded him of a story. My first year on New Year's Day, he came up to me. He's like, old school, I watch film of you. I'm going to get buckets like you got buckets. That's my New Year's resolution. So I reminded him of that. And I said, this year, what was your New Year's resolution this year? And he said, to be the best version of myself. And this is at 24 years old.
That's a real smart thing.
Well, all I can think about is like, I'm thinking like, how long is the club going to stay open? How long is Park Avenue going, and he's thinking about being the best. And it's genuine. He's one of the most,
right.
And that's the other thing that stands out. He's one of the most genuine people, doesn't need a lot of attention, doesn't seek a lot of attention. And he's just a real dude that I just love being around.
Couple NBA topics. Kevin, this is a fascinating thing to me, that in the history of sports, you can almost never find an example of a star player going from a well-run organization to a poorly run organization and being happy. That we undervalue the owner and the GM and the culture. Milwaukee right now is a really good culture, not just good players. Kevin Durant leaving the Warriors if he won a third title to the Knicks makes absolutely no sense to me. I don't get it. I understand, players want their own team. When you hear that story, in your day, would a player have left the Lakers? By the way, in your day, the Bucks were great.
Yeah.
The Lakers were well run. The Washington Bullets at the time, the Sonics.
Right.
What do you make of Durant leaving Golden State after potentially a third title? What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, you've got a Knick team, Knick organization that is trying to elevate kind of that perception of them in management. So Steve Mills and the other people that are involved, I think it's too soon. The jury's still out in terms of where they are right now. I understand your point. Look, I went from the Bucks to the Clippers with Donald Sterling, and Don Nelson called me into his office and said, look, MJ, we do things differently here. I'm sending you out here to the Clippers, and they do things on a whole nother level that you're not accustomed to.
So you've done that.
And he was absolutely right.
Right.
But with Kevin Durant and the Knicks, I understand your point, but let's give the Knicks, I think, some credit. I mean, David Fisdale, who's a local guy here in L.A., played against my son when he was at Fremont High School. I love him in terms of his ability to relate to players and some of the comments about accountability and the things that he's demanding of players. I think they're a destination that could be on the rise. It's too early for me to say right now that it's a bad organization. Okay. I know historically, we could probably say that, but at this point in time, I couldn't make that judgment.
That's fair enough. LeBron James is not going to make the playoffs. I doubt he makes All-NBA because he just hadn't played enough games this year. He had a very good year. I'm not denying that, although I thought he took the year off defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hurt for a big chunk.
Yeah.
But I want you to, because in your day, who were the three biggest stars in the league in your day?
Bird, Magic, and
you can stop right there.
I can't do it. Need I say more? Okay, Bird, Magic, two guys I had to guard like all the time.
Right.
Too. Yeah.
So LeBron's to a point. I always say he's in the mogul stage. There's the showing off, I'm really good. There's the I got to win my Grammys and I got to win my titles to validate. Got to win an Oscar. And then Michael Jordan, Kobe, last few years, it's the mogul stage.
Yeah.
I love basketball, but I'm going to take care of my legacy and my brand and my money. LeBron today, I saw Juwan Howard's name as a coach. Does that work to you? If it does, why?
On the face of it, you say Juwan Howard. Now, where does that come from? But then when you kind of do a little bit deeper dive and you realize that he had 8 years in the Miami Heat organization under the headship of Pat Riley, which is, pretty good guy to kind of be under the headship of, and Eric Spoelstra, who was his coach. And you talk to some of these current Heat and read things about them, James Johnson, Deion Waiters. They always talk about Wayne Ellington, this Miami organization, and how they were able to squeeze the best out of them, starting first with condition. So my point is that Juwan is not some guy that is coming directly from the league last year into the coach's seat. He served as an assistant coach for 5 years, 8 total years under Spoelstra, under Riley. I think he's paid his dues, coupled with the fact He's from Chicago. This is not some easy pushover dude that's going to take a lot of stuff and you can't cuss out in front of the team and not expect him to respond. I think if he needs to be confrontational, he will be confrontational, but in a manner that doesn't totally upset the apple cart when it comes to LeBron James.
Let's discuss, though. You saw Magic and Bird at the end. LeBron is at a point in his career where, listen, when you give a guy $500 million and you give him titles and legacy and TV shows, he's human. Okay,
Right.
and I've said LeBron's a little needier to me.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm needier now than I was in my 20s when I was fighting to get on the air. That neediness, do you sense it a little bit that when you coach LeBron and when you're around LeBron, there's certain things he's just going to demand from you, which a young player wouldn't?
Well, and that's why, to me, it's important to have someone that you go into a partnership when you're coaching LeBron, as opposed to I'm going to be the disciplinarian and crack the. That's not going to work. He's just his stature in the league is just elevated to.
And he knows a lot.
And that's the other thing. He's just a treasure trove of knowledge and just wealth of information in terms of how to win basketball games. So why wouldn't you listen to a guy like that? Why wouldn't you not bring him into the office and figure out what's going on in his mind? And Don Nelson was so good at that. He would always ask us what we saw out on the floor, and if we could explain to him in the midst of a turnover that I was trying to make something positive happen, he was good with that. And I think that's the kind of an approach you need with LeBron James, just to be able to communication with these young guys. And I go back to Budenholzer and the Bucks. That's the biggest key to getting the best, knowing which buttons to push, when to push them, and you only understand that by spending time, quality time with these players and really getting to know them on a level so much outside of the basketball court.
By the way, take all the Milwaukee Bucks away. This Zion Williamson kid. He's he's 285. Just your summation of what he is.
Well, the thing that impresses me the most, the athleticism. He's been a YouTube, social media sensation for
about 3 years.
I was going to say about 3 years now. So I've seen some of the craziness that he's done. But what impresses me the most, and we saw that during the NCAA tournament, Michigan State, that great second half run that he had.